this is Chef Mark, and I am here today answering a series of questions that I got from somebody who commented on one of my YouTube channels, and their questions revolve around sous vide, and there's some great questions here. Let me say this about sous vide. Sous vide, although is very simple, once you learn how to take advantage of the cooking method, it is quite complicated in theory. So hopefully this video will serve to help unscramble some of these mysteries. So here's the question. This subscriber said, I just purchased a sous vide unit, watched so many videos, and I'm not sure if I can cook the meat, then freeze it, and use it a day later. Okay. So here's my thought on this. Fresh food is best. It's best to cook food and eat it immediately. I'm not sure why so many comments revolve around, can I freeze food? How do I freeze the food? To me, I just think you should cook and eat. And I know I'm a professional chef, maybe that's easy for me to say, but it's true. And if you're feeding a small amount of people, just cook for two. It takes much less time to cook for two people. And how do you cook for two? Well, you cook for one and you double it. So it's like thinking like a restaurant. But here's my notes on that. Fresh food is best. It's best to freeze your meats from raw and then cook them, as opposed to sous videing the meat, searing it, and then freezing it, and then pulling it back out of the freezer. So one of the questions she had revolved around food safety, and I will say this. Your best chance for keeping your food safe is to only make sure that you're freezing things once. So food code says that once you thaw meats, that it's illegal or immoral or unfood safe to refreeze and then reserve. You don't hear a ton of foodborne illness outbreaks in restaurants because usually people are ServSafe, certified, have been through food safety training, and they know these things. So you want to avoid that. So really the best thing to do for this subscriber is you go shopping, take your meats, freeze them, pre-wrapped. So you want to go ahead, get your food saver, and wrap the meats, vacuum pack them, and you can vacuum pack in portions. So let's say, there's 4 people in my family. Maybe I'll vacuum pack 4 chicken breasts, 4 steaks, 4 pork chops. Vacuum pack that in your food saver and into the freezer raw. Then piece of cake. It's pork chop day. So I pull my pork chops out. I put them in the sous vide bin and put them in the hot water and I sous vide them. I'll let you Google what temperature you prefer your pork. Everybody has a different opinion on that, and I don't want to get into a debate about perfect temperature. Anyways, your pork chops from frozen into the sous vide, they can go all day. They can go 8, 10, 12 hours. So you don't need to be home to watch that. You can just, off you go. And then when you get home, you pop the cryovac open or the food safe bag open, drain off the water, the hemoglobin that comes off, and you sear that. So it's very, very simple from the standpoint of you're cooking fresh food, fresh frozen food, as opposed to cooking food, then freezing it, and then pulling it back out of your freezer and serving it. So my advice is to think like a restaurant, okay? Here we go. In this case, how do I warm up? In the sous vide. Do I take it out of the vacuum bag and heat in the frying pan or the air fryer? Great. So yeah, once you pull your food out of the sous vide bag, because it's been sitting there for 8 or 10 hours, and I would say 2 hours minimum if your food is thawed, and if it's coming in frozen, 6 hours minimum. And then you can grill, you can sear in a pan, you can air fry. You need to get a crust on it. You can broil, but just moments. So I find that I can grill steaks that have been sous vide. I like 128 degrees. I like mine nice medium rare, and I just march them across the grill, get a nice sear, and I'm ready to go. I can be eating in 5 minutes as opposed to 20 or 30 minutes by the time you heat up the grill and find everything. It's a lot quicker process. So pull your meat out individually quick frozen, IQF in packages, sous vide, then sear, then serve. Okay, here's another question. Is the meat supposed to be frozen as is or cooked a day later with the sous vide? Yeah, so that goes back to what we were talking about. Individually freeze your packages of meat based in different portions. So let's say you go to Costco once a month and you buy all your meats and you bring them home and you put them in your chest freezer. So sometimes the butcher can do this for you, or you can buy a food saver and food safe bags, again, portion. And what I like to do is I like to portion some steaks in 2s, some in 4s, some in 6s. I find above 8 steaks in one cryovac bag, you tend to get some diminishing returns. So choose what portions are best for you. Cryovac those, get them in your freezer, label them, strip steak, 2 steaks. Pull that out, oh, it's just me and the husband today, it's just me and my wife, it's just me and the kids, whatever the portion size is, boom, into the sous vide, 6 to 8 hours, pull that out and sear. Okay, this is a great question. When do I season my food? I hear this all the time. You season your food after it's cooked in the sous vide and before you sear it. So I pull my steaks out, I like Montreal steak seasoning, I pull it out of the vacuum bag, I get the hemoglobin out, I make sure they're nice and dry, Montreal steak seasoning, boom, onto the grill. Why don't you want to season your steaks before you cryovac them? Well, I'll tell you why. Sous vide does a couple of things. So it cooks the food, but it also intensifies flavor and tenderizes. So you can have a nice intense beef flavor if you're doing steak sous vide. Let's say you throw a piece of rosemary in there, thinking, I love rosemary. Now it's just going to taste like a pine forest because it's intensifying those flavors. My recommendation is to season your food before you sear it. So if you love rosemary, rub your rosemary on after it's been sous vide, and then go ahead, let it sit for a few minutes, and then go ahead and cook. All right, more questions. She says here, I'm not that concerned about taste, to be honest. I'm more concerned about food safety. Well, let me address the taste. If it tastes great, you're going to be more likely to do it. So if you're just eating for nutrition, I get that, but you know, life is short, might as well enjoy our dinner. So you're going to get more flavor out of sous vide. Also, when it comes to food safety, keep in mind that because we vacuum pack that food, it can sit in the temperature danger zone longer than typical. So I'm going to get technical on you here. The temperature danger zone is between, I haven't thought about this in a long time, above 40 and below 140 degrees. So above 40 degrees, so not refrigerated, and below 140 degrees, not hot held, food is more likely to develop foodborne illnesses and spoil. That's where food likes to live, to get to build a foodborne illness and become more potentially hazardous. So you have 4 hours inside the temperature danger zone before you need to worry. So let's say you pull frozen steaks out. They're 0 degrees, and let's say they take 2 or 3 hours to reach the surface temperature to reach 41 degrees. Now the clock starts. And then after 2 hours, you go, oh, I gotta put those in the refrigerator, and you reduce the temperature. The clock stops. Then you cook them, and you get them above 140 degrees, let's say the steaks, for example. Now you're hot holding, you're above 140 degrees. You can hold that for as long as you'd like. It's kind of gross, but you can hot hold or hold food above 140 degrees for as long as you can cold hold below 40 degrees or refrigerated. Typically 5 days, that's what food law says, 5 days. So, holy smokes, what does all that mean? Like I said, I was going to get technical on you here. When you cryovac food and you put it in sous vide, it's living in the temperature danger zone most typically. Steaks at 128 degrees, which is my preference, that's right smack dab right in the middle of the temperature danger zone. Well, why would I cook that for 6 or 8 hours, you might ask? Because it's cryovac, it's airtight in that packaging, it's not touching air, it doesn't have the ability to get foodborne illnesses like a typical open air cooking method, like let's say roasting at too low a temperature. So sous vide has been proven to cut back on foodborne illness. And if you open your cryovac and it smells terrible, then you know the cryovac wasn't tight enough. Sometimes that happens commercially as well. But a good tight seal will allow you to go even overnight without worry of having your food spoil. So that's what makes sous vide such a unique cooking method. Whew, okay. We talked about, back to food safety just quickly, we talked about only freezing food once. So get your food fresh, your meats, cryovac them into the freezer, pull them out, cook, and eat immediately or eat within 5 days. That's important. How do you know 5 days? Label and date. Don't cook too much at a time. If you have leftovers and they need to go back in the freezer, hopefully those leftovers, let's say your pot roast, you bought a big roast, you cooked it, you ate half of it, the rest goes in the freezer. That's the first freezing. You pull that back out, you eat the rest of the leftovers, you're still good. Okay, and I also will say, I've never been, as a chef, responsible for getting anybody sick, thank goodness. But I worked at a hotel where our guests got sick, and they were at a rehearsal dinner at another restaurant off-site, and they went and they did a big investigation, the health department did, and it was deemed that they had improperly cold held their food, and food was being held too long. So 5 days is the typical length, and they had food that was up to 2 weeks old. So that's what did it. 5 days goes fast, so you're better off cooking smaller portions more frequently if you're worried about food safety. Holy smokes. Okay. And then here we go. Let's talk about the 3 steps of sous vide. It's really this simple. You're going to vacuum pack. You're going to sous vide. You're going to season and sear. That's it. You're going to vacuum pack. You're going to sous vide. You're going to season and sear. It's a 3-step process. It's just that simple. Okay, let's see what else. Any more questions here? No, I think that covers it all. Oh, here we go. My ultimate goal is to be able to fix dinner quickly and efficiently and to avoid throwing out meats or vegetables. I like to be able to prep when I make big grocery purchases. So I think this is right up your alley. Once again, I'm going to say, think like a restaurant. I think a home cook is looking for shortcuts and to not working as hard in the kitchen. And sous vide is there for you. Remember, sous vide, you're going to sous vide, you're going to vacuum pack, sous vide, season, and sear. It's that 3-step process. So yes, you might be spending more time in the kitchen pulling it out, pulling the sous vide out and seasoning and searing, but that's only minutes, and you have fresh food that you're going to enjoy. Can you sous vide vegetables? Yes, you can. Can you sous vide potatoes? Absolutely. If you're going to do that, it might not be a bad idea to buy 2 pumps so you can have 2 different temperatures going at the same time. All the rules that we talked about meat supply. Potatoes need a fairly high temperature, and vegetables like asparagus, for example, again, higher than you might typically want to do meats at. But these pumps have come way down in price. The one that I use, I got for $40 on Amazon, so why not have a couple of them? I'm sous videing a turkey right now, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sous vide that. I thawed it yesterday. It's going to sous vide for 8 hours a day, and then tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and roast it. So if you must sous vide meat in advance, this is very important, back to food safety. If you must sous vide your meats one day and sear them the second day, take them out of the cryovac so that they have an opportunity to cool down quickly enough. Remember that 4-hour temperature danger zone? That includes cooling time. So if you have your meat at 130 degrees and insulated by plastic that's been vacuum packed, it could be above 40 degrees for hours and hours and hours and hours, and it will spoil in the packaging. So remove the packaging and then go ahead, let that cool off, uncovered in your refrigerator. Sometimes I blow a fan on it. Sometimes I even set it outside if it's cool outside. All of these things will reduce that temperature so that if you must sear your food the next day, you're ready to go. That works great for a turkey. This particular turkey I'm going to be carving live on television for Thanksgiving on Denver News Channel here. So no one's going to be eating this turkey. I'm cooking it for appearance. But the last time I did this, I tasted it and it tastes amazing. It tasted great. So of course I want to have food that's wholesome and looks great on camera, and I'm going to use sous vide to my advantage. So that's a lot of questions there. It was a really good post. And guess what? You can ask questions on my YouTube channel here. You can send an email, chefmarkkalix@gmail. You can go to my website, www.celebritychefmarkk.com. All of these places are great spaces for you to ask questions. And I hope this helps. I know this is a little wordy, and I know it's a lot of information, but sous vide, like I said, it's hard to explain, but easy to execute, which is a little different than how I typically talk about cooking. This is Chef Mark. I'm back in the laboratory. Did you click subscribe yet? Did you? Well, we're on our way to 2,000 subscribers in the making of this video. I know that's small beans for a lot of content creators, but for me, it would mean the world if we could get there sooner than later. Thanks for tuning in.